Have you ever stopped to think that the greatest enemy of your transformation is inside your own head? Your brain wasn't designed to help you achieve your dreams. It was designed to protect you, to keep you comfortable, silent, and afraid. That's why every time you try to do something difficult, a voice appears saying, "Leave it for tomorrow. You're not ready. It's better to rest." That voice isn't you. It's your brain trying to keep you small. But today, that war ends. In this video, you're going to discover how to raise your vibration, break through the limits of the mind, and force it to obey your true purpose. You'll learn how to turn pain into fuel, how to act without hesitation, and how to become a machine of discipline and manifestation. Before we begin, write in the comments, "My mind obeys me." That will be your first affirmation of power. When we talk about manifesting anything and forcing the mind to vibrate at a higher frequency, we're not speaking about empty magic or unrealistic promises. We're speaking about applied science, deep spirituality, and practical psychology. And in this field, one of the greatest names is Jacobo Grinberg, the Mexican scientist who dedicated his life to studying consciousness and how the mind shapes reality. Grinberg proposed that what we call the external world is nothing more than a projection of our neuronal field, an invisible web that responds to what we think, feel, and believe. This vision breaks with the traditional paradigm, showing that changing the mind is not just about changing thoughts, but about altering the very structure of reality itself. Other thinkers, like Neville Goddard and even modern neuroscientists, confirm that the brain, in trying to protect us, creates resistance and blockages that limit our potential. But the good news is that we can reprogram it. Science and spirituality converge on a powerful point. You are capable of forcing your mind to align with a higher frequency and, from that place, manifest abundance, purpose, and power. Today, you'll gain access to that path. Jacobo Grinberg was one of the most daring and visionary researchers of the 20th century. While most scientists limited themselves to studying the brain as a set of neurons and chemical processes, he dared to go further. He proposed that there exists something much greater and invisible, which he called the neuronal field. This field would be a kind of information matrix, a subtle web where all human perceptions and experiences are processed and projected. In other words, what we call external reality is nothing but a projection of this field. This idea changes everything. It means we don't live in a fixed, immutable world, but in a malleable field that responds to consciousness. That explains why different people can live through similar situations, yet have completely different perceptions and results. What changes is not the world itself, but the vibrational frequency of the mind interpreting that world. Grinberg studied shamans, spiritual traditions, and altered states of consciousness, realizing that all of them pointed to the same truth: reality can be manipulated from the inside out. And when we talk about vibrating higher, we are referring exactly to this, raising the pattern of thoughts, emotions, and beliefs so that the neuronal field projects a superior version of reality. Modern science, especially quantum physics, is beginning to confirm this vision. Experiments show that the observer influences the phenomenon observed, proving that there is no rigid separation between mind and matter. If our consciousness shapes reality, then we are co-creators of everything we live. The great obstacle is that from an early age, our minds are programmed with beliefs of limitation, fear, and scarcity. These beliefs create a kind of filter that distorts the neuronal field, making us believe in difficulties that often don't even exist. This is the crucial point. If you believe prosperity is difficult, your mind will project exactly that experience. If you believe you can't change, reality will confirm your belief. But here's the good news. Just as this field can be distorted, it can also be reprogrammed. By consciously altering your beliefs and inner vibration, you change the quality of the projection of your reality. This isn't about superficial positive thinking, but about training the brain and emotions to align with the frequency of abundance, love, courage, and discipline. Grinberg shows us that reality is not fixed, but plastic, and this plasticity is the key to manifestation. When you understand that you are not a victim of circumstances, but an active creator of your experience, you begin to claim the true power to transform any area of your life. The neuronal field is a reminder that everything is already within you. The world is not something separate. It is simply a reflection of your state of consciousness. Vibrating higher means altering that state so that life reflects your best version. One of the biggest shocks for those who begin the journey of self-knowledge is realizing that the brain, in its most primitive form, is not an ally for growth. It doesn't care about your dreams or your grand goals. Its only objective is survival. And to survive, it prefers to keep you comfortable in predictable routines away from risks and challenges. That's why so often you decide to change your life, but you give up along the way. You promise to wake up early, but the mind whispers, sleep a little longer. You decide to start a diet, and it strikes back, just today won't hurt. You plan to start a project, and the inner voice says, it's not the right time, you're not ready. What seems like laziness or lack of discipline is, in reality, a defense mechanism. The brain is a master at creating logical excuses to justify inaction. It fabricates convincing narratives like, I'll start tomorrow, or it's useless, this won't work. And the more you give in, the more you strengthen the invisible prison of your own mind. This cycle becomes an internal war in which you fight against yourself without even realizing it. Jacobo Grinberg helps us understand this process by showing that the mind is a filter that shapes the neuronal field. If this filter is programmed for survival and fear, it projects exactly those experiences. It's like living in a reality where every step toward growth is perceived as a threat. That's why life often feels like a constant battle. The enemy is not outside, it's inside. The good news is that although the brain is resistant, it is also malleable. Modern neuroscience proves that we can create new neural circuits through repetition and discipline. This means it's possible to train your mind to obey your will instead of letting it command your destiny. But for that, awareness and deliberate practice are necessary. The first step is to recognize that inner voice seeking comfort not as your identity, but as an automatic mechanism. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who chooses whether to believe them or not. By taking that distance, you begin to reclaim the power that once belonged to habit and fear. When you decide to act even in the face of resistance, something extraordinary happens. The brain begins to adapt. It understands that the new path doesn't represent danger, but evolution. Each time you break through the barrier of procrastination, you create new connections that strengthen your discipline and weaken the power of the inner voice that paralyzes you. Seeing the brain as an invisible enemy is fundamental to defeating it. Only then do you understand that that sensation of laziness, doubt, or fear is not a sign to stop, but a test to prove you're on the right path. Most people spend their lives running from pain. They believe that discomfort, failure, or resistance are signs that something is wrong. But the truth is the exact opposite. Pain is the gateway to evolution. Your brain, programmed to protect you, interprets pain as danger and tries to keep you away from it. However, when you learn to redefine that signal, you transform pain into the greatest fuel to raise your vibration and manifest what you desire. Jacobo Grinberg taught that reality is shaped by the way we interpret the neuronal field. If you see pain as an enemy, your mind projects blockages, fear, and paralysis. But if you see pain as energy, your consciousness expands. That's the secret. What changes is not the pain itself, but the way you read and use it. Think of a muscle. It only grows when subjected to resistance. At first it burns, it hurts, and it seems impossible to continue, but it's precisely that process that makes it stronger. The same happens with the mind and the spirit. Every discomfort is training to raise your frequency, to teach your consciousness to operate at a higher level. When you decide to transform pain into fuel, reality responds. That rejection that felt like defeat becomes the push to seek new opportunities. That failure that felt like humiliation turns into a lesson that opens doors. That physical discomfort of waking up early becomes discipline. Every drop of pain is a coin that buys clarity, power, and expansion. But there's one rule: you cannot run from discomfort. Running away reinforces the mind's survival programming. Accepting and moving through it reprograms your brain for growth. At that point, pain stops being a prison and becomes a path. A powerful practice is to invert the brain's logic. When the thought, "I don't feel like it," appears, respond, "Perfect, that's exactly why I must do it." This way, every time the mind tries to protect you, you use it as a trigger to act. Little by little, you create a warrior identity, someone who doesn't surrender to pain, but uses it as a sign of expansion. This shift in perspective raises your vibration. While most vibrate in fear and avoidance, you vibrate in courage and surrender. This creates an energetic field that attracts compatible experiences, greater opportunities, aligned people, situations that reflect your new strength. Pain was never the enemy. It was always the training the universe offered to shape you for the level you wish to live. When you decide to embrace it, your mind stops fighting and begins to obey. At that moment, you don't just resist pain, you transform it into a bridge to manifest everything you want. If there is a mortal enemy of manifestation and discipline, that enemy is hesitation. Every time you overthink before acting, you give your brain time to activate its defense mechanisms, invent excuses, and paralyze you. It's in that space of seconds that your dreams are stolen. That's why anyone who wants to vibrate higher must master the principle of immediate action. Neuroscientists explain that the conscious mind works like an editor, always analyzing risks and benefits. This process is useful in survival situations, but destructive when it comes to growth. The more you think, the more your mind finds reasons not to act. That's where the 3-second technique comes in. When you feel resistance, you count mentally 3, 2, 1, and move immediately. This technique is powerful because it interrupts the automatic pattern of hesitation. Instead of letting the mind invent excuses, you create a direct bridge to action. It's like saying to the brain, "I know you want to protect me, but I decide." And the moment you move, something magical happens. Energy starts to flow. The vibration that was once blocked by fear expands, raising your inner state. Jacobo Grinberg would say that this act of breaking the pattern is a way of altering the neuronal field. Instead of reinforcing the frequency of passivity, you project new information into the field. Decision, movement, power. Reality responds in tune, bringing results that only appear to those who dare to act. Immediate action doesn't have to be something huge. It can be getting out of bed without thinking twice, sending that important message, starting the workout, opening the book, taking the first step in the project. The point is that the size of the action matters less than the speed with which you do it. The movement itself is the trigger that reprograms your mind. Over time, this habit creates an identity. You stop being someone who overthinks and become someone who acts. And identity is vibration. When your vibration is that of someone who moves without hesitation, the universe adjusts to reflect that energy. Opportunities appear, connections grow stronger, doors open. The secret of manifestation is not in waiting for motivation to arrive, but in acting before the brain has time to sabotage you. Motivation comes later, as a consequence of action. That's why every time you feel resistance, remember, you have 3 seconds to kill hesitation and choose the path of expansion. This simple practice is like a reset button. It proves that you are in control, not your mind. And when the brain understands that you always win the battle against hesitation, it learns to obey. That's when you discover the true power of immediate action to create the life you want. If you want to force your mind to vibrate higher and manifest anything, you need to understand one simple truth. Discipline is the bridge between intention and reality. It's no use just visualizing, repeating affirmations, or waiting for the perfect moment. The brain needs to be trained daily to obey, and that happens through rituals of discomfort. Jacobo Grinberg said, "The neuronal field is shaped by repetition." Every time you repeat an experience, you reinforce a vibrational pattern in the field. If you repeat laziness, you install laziness. If you repeat courage, you install courage. That's why small rituals of discipline are so powerful. They reprogram the mind to vibrate at the frequency of strength, clarity, and manifestation. One of the most effective rituals is the cold shower. It seems simple, but this act of consciously choosing discomfort teaches the brain that you're in charge. Every second of resistance overcome strengthens your warrior identity. Another powerful ritual is daily physical exercise, even if it's just a set of push-ups, a short run, or a brisk walk. The goal is not just to shape the body, but to shape the mind to act even when it doesn't want to. There are also mental rituals, like disciplined meditation. Sitting in silence, even when the mind screams for distraction, trains patience and clarity. It shows the brain that you decide where your attention goes. Likewise, the habit of waking up early, writing goals, or practicing a moment of gratitude are anchors reminding your mind, "I choose my vibration." The most important thing is not intensity, but consistency. Discipline is not built through a single heroic act, but through small battles won every day. Each ritual of discomfort is like a punch at the brain's survival programming, and the more you practice, the weaker that programming becomes. Over time, these rituals become part of your identity. You no longer need to convince yourself to act, you simply act. And it's in this state that manifestation happens naturally. Because when the universe sees someone disciplined, committed, and vibrating high, it responds in kind, bringing opportunities that match that energy. Discipline, therefore, is not a prison. It is freedom. It is the ability to choose your path instead of being a hostage to a lazy mind. Every ritual of discomfort is a reminder that you are greater than your basic instincts, greater than your excuses, greater than your limitations. If you want to manifest abundance, purpose, and power, make rituals of discipline part of your routine. Not to prove anything to anyone, but to prove to yourself that you are capable of taking control of your neuronal field. That way, your mind learns to obey, and your life begins to reflect the frequency of greatness. Most people see manifestation as an external event, something that happens when the universe decides to deliver. But Jacobo Grinberg's vision, combined with the spiritual experience of great masters, reveals a much deeper truth. Manifestation is not something you do, it's something you become. That means it's not enough to just wish, think positively, or repeat random phrases. Manifestation requires complete alignment between mind, emotion, and energy. When you live in coherence, your vibration becomes so clear and consistent that the neuronal field inevitably projects that reality. It's not magic, it's resonance. Think of someone who desires prosperity but lives vibrating in fear, anxiety, and scarcity. That person, even without realizing it, is sending signals of lack. The universe, which responds to frequency and not words, simply returns more experiences of scarcity. Now imagine someone who lives with confidence, gratitude, and certainty that they are already prosperous. That person naturally attracts situations that confirm their vibration. The difference isn't in desire, but in the state of being. That's why many fail at manifesting. They want to change the external reality without transforming the internal one. They remain the same identity while trying to get different results. But the key is this: when you change who you are, you change what you experience. How can you apply this in practice? First, become the version of yourself who already lives the reality you desire. Want more abundance? Feel and act like someone abundant. Give thanks, share, invest in yourself. Want more confidence? Behave like someone secure. Speak, take a stand, even if your heart races. Want more love? Cultivate within yourself the energy of care, presence, and devotion. Jacobo Grinberg said the mind does not distinguish between reality and imagination when the emotion is intense. This means that if you can feel as if you already are the person you want to be, your neuronal field will accept it as truth. From there, your perception changes, your behavior changes, and reality inevitably reorganizes to confirm this new version. At that point, manifestation stops being effort and becomes flow. You don't need to chase things because they start coming to you. It's as if the universe recognizes your frequency and says, "Here is what is already yours." Manifestation, therefore, is not about asking, begging, or waiting. It's about living as if it were already real. It's aligning your vibration with the reality you desire and maintaining that state until it becomes inevitable. The secret is to understand that there is no distant future to be conquered. There is only the now and the identity you choose to embody in this moment. When you become the vibration of what you want, life has no choice but to reflect that version of you in every detail. Now that you understand how to force your mind to vibrate higher and manifest anything, the moment has come to act. It's not enough to listen, reflect, or agree. You must put each technique into practice, turning pain into fuel, acting within 3 seconds, creating rituals of discomfort, and above all, living as if you already were the version you want to be. Daily discipline is what will make your mind obey and your reality align with the frequency of abundance. Remember, your mind will always try to keep you trapped in comfort, but every time you choose discomfort, you prove you are greater than your basic instincts. Every step you take against hesitation is a victory that raises your vibration. Don't wait for motivation. Decide to act now. If this content made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to keep receiving messages of transformation and personal power. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this truth and leave in the comments the phrase, "My mind obeys me." That will be your declaration of victory, the first step to reprogram your identity. The power is already within you. The choice is yours. The action is now.